My experience being one of the youngest females, tried as an adult and receiving a life sentence, people knew that coming in young that I was impressionable and I was in a really unhealthy, scared, confused space. And people saw that. And so it was definitely challenging going into the adult system so young. I went through juvenile hall, NYA, made it to adult prison, and I still had all the same issues, all the same stuff going on. Just because my location changed doesn't mean I changed. And I fell right into like using drugs in prison and selling drugs on the side in prison and all the stuff that comes along with that. Like I did not change at all. And I really didn't, it was a combination of I didn't want to change and I didn't think I deserved to change. And people validated that. Like a lot of people really confirmed that that was just how things were, especially being a lifer. When I moved into the honor dorm, I actually was coming off drugs. And I had just left a room with people who were doing things very differently. And it was the first time that it opened my eyes to the fact that like, I don't have to be this way. Like life could be different. Things could be different. Like these people are in here doing crafts and going to groups. That was my first aha. So the first workshop, I made it all the way through the first day, the second day, and we're at that last trio doing the compassionate self-forgiveness. I like poured out my heart about the very worst thing I'd ever done in my life, the very worst thing. And I expected the validation of like, you're right, you're a monster. Like there's no hope for you. There's no going back from that. And instead Ray was like, okay, now what? And at first I was like, what do you mean? Like I was angry because you're not validating this hate that I have for myself. And I was like, what do you mean now what? In the most compassionate way, he was like, so that's happened. Now what do you do with your life? So that was like a huge pivotal moment for me in that very first workshop. That's what set it in motion. Like, I don't know if I would have ever really challenged myself to see past that had he not just asked a very, very simple question in such a compassionate way and just, he held space. It was like watching like the wave of freedom to choose go through the prison. People were actually like trying to implement the tools that we were learning in communicating with each other. And I'm talking about like people I would have never expected to like really use those things. They were actively using them. I think introducing these skills that are offered in just that beginning freedom to choose class, it's essential. The skills don't just walk us through how to communicate with other people, how to experience the world, but also how to experience myself and how to communicate and hear my own voice and how to hold space for that and actually move into an actual loving, compassionate place. And most people in the world, I've discovered, are just not taught those things. And so freedom to choose brings something that I think is needed and essential to living as a healthy, happy person, but not really provided by the world in general, by society. Moving into a role of service for me was a necessary part of the process because being of service, it was so much more genuinely. You hear people say, oh, it does more for me than it does for them, but it was so much of that. Like I don't know if I would have ever moved into a place of like actual forgiveness with myself had I not had the ability to touch other people's lives in a positive way and say like, okay, like there's a reason I'm here. It was hard getting away from like the grouping and the therapy and the classes and all that and seminars. Like life does not really allow for that out here. And thankfully, I've had a few opportunities to step into roles where I'm still able to help a bit. And I have the opportunity to go into a prison in Pennsylvania once a week. It's like double. I get to work with the incarcerated population, get to pass on some of the stuff that I've been given, but I also get to work with animals, which for me is super important. It is very full. I would have to say genuinely that Freedom to Choose was really the beginning for me.